Hey, how you doing? What's up everyone? I just finished installing this fireplace here, well, 5 months ago right before winter, and I'm here showing you how to install one after winter. Whoops. Now these fireplaces can simply be mounted to the face of a wall and plugged into your ordinary outlet, but that's not the most appealing. So if you have an ounce of DIY muscles, then this is a project that you could tackle in a single weekend. And by simple, I mean it's about a 7 to 8 on a scale of 10, so not super simple, but you can always scale this back and make it as easy as you're comfortable with. I'll go through the framing, the electrical, the drywall, and then eventually the actual final hookup of the fireplace. If you like how this beauty looks, check out the links down in the description below where I have the different widths or lengths of them. This is the second one I've installed. The other one was at the Lakeside Airbnb, and I was going to make a video back then, but I was just running out of time. Anyway, let's hurry and get into this one. This is what I'm dealing with here. The kids are getting too old for a changing station and all that. This is where the fireplace is going to go. That's my closest outlet on this wall, and it's too far over. This would be a really wide fireplace for a small bedroom. So I'm actually gonna have to tap into the wall behind it and use the outlet that's in the office there to run my wiring through. The span of this wall is 9 feet, so I'm going exactly in the middle here to center my fireplace. I set this bottle exactly in the middle, and I'm gonna make the actual wall, the fireplace wall, 70 inches wide. So 35 inches is my halfway point right there, and my fireplace is 60 inches. So it's going to come off 30 inches that way, 30 inches that way. Since today is really just my design day, I'm going to mark up the walls behind this dresser. I'm going to cut up the wall behind this dresser and maybe try to do some of the wiring, and then so I can conceal it today, and it'll just make things easier for tomorrow. Like I said, it's going to be 70 inches wide. I have 69 here for the length of my 2x4 plate, and there will be a 1/2 inch of drywall there and a 1/2 inch of drywall there, totaling 70 inches. Here's where my fireplace cubby will be. I'm getting about 5 inches on each end when it's all said and done. See, I have 59 inches there. 5 plus 5 gives me that 69. So I marked my center line on the wall over there, and so I need to take 69 divided by 2 and then find my 2 ends so I know exactly where to put my 2x4. My outlet is actually closer to center than I really thought. It's like right here. So I really just needed to do one small hole. Now I have this whole thing, but whatever, it's gonna be behind the fireplace. Now I'm cutting the floor so I can rest my sill plate or my bottom piece of 2x4 on the subfloor or my actual plywood floor. This will just add structural integrity to it, and eventually I'm going to swap these floors out, and I can't do that if this fireplace is resting on them. I'm not going to get too deep in the electrical here because every situation is different. You can technically plug this fireplace into an outlet. It's basically just a glorified room heater, so you're gonna be okay. Now, I would recommend using a 20 amp designated circuit for this type of thing. It's not what I'm doing here. Here's the roll of new wire that I have here. Now I'm putting in a second wire here into my new box that'll go up to the TV. And this is a wire stripper. I'm stripping it down to the 14 gauge wire. This is what we have going on. So I have this existing outlet box going into my office in there. I'm going to tie this cable into the power, into this, which will run over here into my new box. and then it'll tie into this other cable. So there will be an outlet here for my fireplace to plug into, and then it'll run to my other wire here, which will go, the excess is here, but it'll run up this wall and into a new outlet up here for my TV. So you just saw me cut the bottom plate and the top plate. They're gonna be the same size, 69 inches in my case. I'm not gonna show you any more cuts out there because it's too hot to be dragging this camera back and forth and just putting that extra time in. And all the cuts look the same anyways. It's a saw cutting wood. Just remember your hearing protection, your eye protection, and measure twice, cut once. I mean, that's all there is to say about that. But we'll get these pieces in here so you'll actually see what the framing looks like, because that is important. Come on now. Here we go. And that's how you frame a wall. I'm screwing this top plate onto my ceiling joists. They just happen to run perpendicular to this board, so I can attach screws to them. If this isn't the case for you, it's fine. We have other ways to attach this new wall to the old wall, so it's extremely structurally sound, if that makes sense. You definitely don't need a nail gun, screws, and a drill work just fine, but I have it, so why not use it? This bottom board here is what your fireplace is going to rest on. It's really optional, or up to your own preference on how high you want it. These sideboards here are for the side of the fireplace, obviously, and then I'll attach the top piece of wood 2x4 a little bit later. The reason I decided to screw this part in instead of nail it is that the difference between nailing and screwing is that screwing actually can join two boards together. So there's a little bit of gap here because these sideboards are bowed. So by screwing it in, it actually brings them in together. If I nailed it, there's really no gripping power. So it would just shoot through and it would probably still leave a gap there. For down here, I've got these two short boards. I'm gonna put them flat against the wall this time, and that way I can nail this directly into the stud and do the same thing over there. And then I'll fasten this, of course, into this and toenail this into the base plate. That way a lot of this framing now is more supported against the stud, and I'll do something similar somewhere up here too. So it'll just help get the wood, this frame, onto the actual wall itself instead of just having it as this somewhat floating wall. And I keep saying this, but this is not a structural wall, but it matters because I don't want the sheetrock to start cracking along the edges. This needs to be sturdy and strong. Now you can probably tell from the final shots of this in the beginning of the video, well that is if I end up doing this right, there is actually going to be a TV up here, but I'm not just hanging it on this new wall. I'm going to build a recessed niche in there so the TV kind of sets inside the wall and doesn't protrude as much. It does add a lot more work. You do have to buy the corner bead and more compound mixture and all that stuff, so it's more work and money, but I think it's worth it. I got a smaller TV since this is a bedroom. I think it's a 32 inch. So the actual width of the TV is like 30 or 31 inches, something like that. So I've cut these boards here 32 inches long. I did the homework on this a few days ago. Check for level. I don't know how you feel about this, but this is probably my second video where I'm not going to add much music to it, just so you get the natural sound of the construction site. And I get quite a few comments on how annoying some of my music is. It's not my personal music preference, it's just what's free and available on the internet. That looks tiny, so I'm going to bring the TV in here before I sheetrock all this up. Just make sure it'll fit. Alright, so it is the right size. I just forgot how small a 32 inch is, so I don't know how I like that. It's pretty small for this wall, but it is a bedroom. So since TVs kind of tilt down from the wall, there's more space on top than there is on bottom behind the TV. So that's where I'm going to put the outlet, because usually the prongs that you put in the outlet kind of stick out far, maybe 2 inches or so. So I want this to be further up here. My studs are right here, so I have to put it somewhere in between. I'll just center it right in the middle. I guess I don't know exactly what I was thinking here, but this is a new work box, which means it has these 2 nails here where you would attach it to a stud right next to it over here. But that means you have to have access. All the sheetrock has to be gone so you can actually hammer these nails in. They have old work boxes, they call them, where you can actually screw these little screws that they have in each corner, and it opens these flaps that clamp around the drywall. That's what I need here. Just so you know, I added 2 things of cross bracing here, where again, I tied this into this piece, and then I screwed this in onto a stud. I can see there's a stud by the outlet box there, and that one into that stud there. So this will all be sturdy. There's gonna be a lot of corners on this thing that I do not want cracking and shifting over time. All right, it's time for some drywall, which I brought in the room, but getting it up on these 9-10 foot ceilings here is gonna be really difficult on my own. So what I'm gonna do is screw on some boards that protrude these, and then I'll be able to rest the sheet of sheetrock on top of those boards and then screw it on, and I can remove these little boards. Here we go, got the first one on. All the drywall is now hung up. You can see I have it in the inner circle here because that'll all be exposed. I have it on the edges all the way up and down. And I don't have it on the inner side that in there because the fireplace is gonna cover that up, right? The only thing really left now is to tape and float it, paint it, and then, yeah. I finished the pre-fill on here, so I'll come back in about an hour and get to taping and floating. Something to note, it is pre-fill, so pre-fill goes into larger voids, therefore there's a deeper amount of the compound on there. So it may take a little bit longer for those bigger voids to dry than if you were to do tape and floating where you just have a little tiny film of this stuff. That dries super fast. It's been a couple hours now. I did a little procrastination, but it's time to tape and float, so I have my tape here. And while I used about I think a 3-inch knife to do the pre-fill, I'm now going to be using a 6-inch. You can use a 4-inch on the actual taping and floating here. And I've also made the mixture, the compound here, a little runnier than, you know, your normal just pre-mixed stuff. What you saw me doing there for a quick second was wet sanding some of this drywall and then coming back and sanding it for real. Wet sanding just creates a lot less dust and is really a lot easier to do, in my opinion. now I'm going to take this wire from the outlet and hook it up to my main power source, which is in this outlet in the office. Alright, that wraps it up for the fireplace install video. I think I made it a little more complicated than it actually is. It's not that bad. It is a quick weekend project. You can always just frame this up using your simple screws and a drill, and then have a drywaller come in to patch everything up when you're done. Get a professional electrician in to do the final hookups after you already run the wires and buy the outlets and the other materials. That may make it a little less stressful for you and definitely a lot cheaper. My favorite color pattern on here is the purple here. I don't know why, it's obviously fake, but I like how it glistens against the white walls. It's pretty awesome. Remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to see more content just like this, and I will see you all on the next video.